Welcome to Magnify Your Message. Inspiration magnified.
Instead of saying, hey, let's find the affordable college, we say, let's look for the most expensive college we can, because it's actually the really expensive colleges that pay the biggest scholarships that end up costing you less than the in-state option.
Welcome back to the Magnify Your Message podcast. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest, most misunderstood problems in higher education: how to get your kids into college and actually afford it without losing your mind, your savings, or your financial future. And let me tell you, if you think you know how this higher ed process works, think again, because joining us today are Karen and Danny Umali, the powerhouse duo behind Game Theory College Planners. They have completely hacked the college admissions game, helping families get into the right schools for the right price. But here's what makes Karen and Danny different: they don't just help kids get in, they make sure that they can actually afford to go. So whether you're a parent or a student, or someone who just wants to understand how to make smart financial moves when it comes to education, you are in for an absolute masterclass today. Let's dive in with Karen and Danny Umali. I cannot even think about these two, much less sit here and have a conversation with them without the hugest smile on my face. And I have a good feeling you will have the same experience. Welcome, Karen and Danny Umali. Yay!
Thank you.
We're happy to be here.
Tell everyone, who are you? What is it that you do?
So we're Karen and Danny. We are the founders of Game Theory College Planners, and our organization actually celebrated our 10-year anniversary in June. And we have solved the college problem. We've hacked the business model of college. So we help families address the problem of how the heck am I going to find a college? And just as important, if not more important,
how am I going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's us.
You have it's fascinating the way that you break this down, and I'm so excited for you to share with people today. But you say things that are so illuminating. Like, one of the things that you said early on when we met is that most four-year institutions don't provide four-year graduates. Wait, what?
Yeah, yeah, they
What?
don't.
What are really the statistics on people finishing college?
So the national average is 19%. That's how many students will finish college in 4 years. Only half will finish ever, but the Department of Education stops checking after 12 years. So if you don't graduate within 12 years, the Department of Education is going to assume you've never graduated. So about half will finish. The other half never do.
Wow. But why? Why is that the case?
This is really challenging because when I share the statistics with parents, I think the natural knee-jerk reaction is, well, not my student. My student's going to focus. My student's going to work really hard. And the actual reason is most of our colleges have too many students in them and not enough teachers. So when it's time to register for the class you need, it's already full. And if you want to be a full-time student, if you want to take the minimum number of hours you need to keep your scholarship, if you can't take the class you need, you take the class that's left. So you have students that are spending a lot of time in classes that don't even go to their degree. So they typically take 6 years or longer to finish. So it's an institutional problem.
Wow. And you help students and parents navigate the whole of it, from finding the schools to getting in the schools to funding it to then navigating it. How on earth did you get involved in this?
By accident. Uh, so I'd say it really started with Karen. She was working at a school for special needs kids. And when I was recruited into the wealth management industry, I needed to find a way to get in front of clients. And I learned about estate planning, special needs trusts, and Karen was the gateway for me to network with a lot of families, schools, and networking with schools meant I began networking with school districts. So here in the Atlanta area, you have Cobb County, Fulton County, Henry County. And I created a network of contacts through all the high schools here in Atlanta. Fast forward a couple of years, there's a team in our group that wanted to break into the college planning space, but didn't really have a network of high schools or didn't know how to get into that network of high schools. So a lot of people at the office pointed them to me. And we got together. I showed them how to get into the high schools. And they said, Danny, by the way, I saw your presentation on special needs planning. Would you like to present college? And well, that sounded complicated. My initial answer was no. It sounds like a really complicated deal, but I put together a presentation. In my first 3 months of college planning, I had picked up more clients than I had in the past 3 years. And it really started to take off. I branched off in June of 2014 and started game theory. And then Karen left her role at the school and eventually came on full time to work with me. And we've just been running this thing ever since.
I was working as a financial planner and too, and more in the planning role and wealth management role and compliance role too, and saw him working with doing the college planning too. And
And you also saw the other approaches to
Yes.
college planning that weren't working.
yes, yeah,
Which basically meant, how much can you save?
yeah.
You got this big bill coming. How much can you save? And that was it.
Yeah, so we would work with families and they were looking at retirement, but then knowing that they also had kids that needed to go through college too. And so it was always going, well, what about, don't they need to plan for college before they plan for retirement? I mean, this is going to be a huge bill. So at that point, Danny and I started talking, saying, I think we need to join forces and work together. So that's what we ended up doing. And
we are what economists call a force multiplier. When you put us two together, we get something completely different. And I think within days, our business partners and our families could tell that we had elevated our approach and we were just more efficient and that just were wildly successful and totally changed our lives from when we started game theory going into 2018, 2019. We were just working with
well, it's a family.
Yeah.
You're working with families and, it's a husband and wife team too. So it's, again, it's so important that you work with people that you know and that you trust. And we're dealing with the two most important things. I mean, it's their children, and then there's also their finances too that you're helping them with. So I think with working as a husband and wife team and dealing with that from start to finish and everything, we brought a different role to that too.
There's something you're talking about that you've connected the dots on, but here I'm going, wait, so you're saying you brought this financial planning and estate planning background to college planning? Because there's two completely disparate elements that don't go together in the mind of most people. I just look
Yes.
back at my own journey anecdotally.
Yes.
And you brought those together for the first time? What
So you raise a very, very good point, because the way we're programmed to look at the college problem, and if you look at our industry, a lot of people on our industry are still fixated on this. They look at the college problem from the standpoint of, how do I get in?
Mhm.
How do I get to the college? And what I've learned so many times is I can help a family get into an $80,000 a year college, but if they can't afford it, they're still not going.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I accomplished nothing. So one of the reasons why we were brought in with our financial background was because our approach merges those two big problems of, how do we get in and how do we find the money to pay for it? And when you look at it that way, when you look at it, if you just Google search enrollment management, oh my gosh, it'll take you down a rabbit hole. But we use enrollment management, which is a fancy way of saying we understand the college business model. And our approach is unique in that we help students. I'll just throw out some statements that are going to shock you. Instead of saying, hey, let's find the affordable college, we say, let's look for the most expensive college we can, because it's actually the really expensive colleges that pay the biggest scholarships that end up costing you less than the in-state option. So I meet families all the time. Oh, my student wants to go to this expensive school. Good. Oh, my student wants to go far away. They want to leave the state. Good, because those are usually the less expensive ways to do college, is if you go out of state and you go to a more expensive school. So yeah, what felt just business as usual to Karen and I, we didn't really realize that we stood out of the industry until we got involved in social media and we started networking with other counterparts in our industry. I just assumed all college planners did it this way, but no, we're really different, because financial, the college planning is really more about admissions counseling. Like I said earlier, it's about getting in. There's very little regard or focus on, how do we find the money to pay for it?
Mm.
And your people that are on the financial side that are figuring out how to pay for it, they're just squeezing your budget. They're seeing how much money you could come up with. What we're doing is, let's say, hey, let's forget about your money for a second. Let's get the college to pay for it. So if you have an $80,000 a year college and they're covering 60,000 of that 80, now you get to go to an amazing college for what it costs to go to an in-state college. So that's the approach. That's why we have the financial background, so that we could help families navigate that financial component. Because if you really think about it, when you apply to a college, they're not just looking at your students' grades and test scores, they're looking at the family's finances too. So if we're allowed to see what the colleges are going to see, that's what makes us so effective at helping families navigate this.
It's just very counterintuitive, because a lot of
Yeah.
families think that they need to look at all of the old stuff. So they need to look for outside scholarships, or they need to
Really figure out the essay.
yeah,
You really have
or
to dial
they
in
need
the
to look
essay.
at
Yeah.
loans from the government, that's where they're going to get the most from. They don't realize that the majority of the money that they can get is from the money from a lot of the colleges.
Yeah. There's a Department of Ed bar graph, and I think 80% of the free money available doesn't come from the government, doesn't come from the state. It comes from the colleges.
Because
So,
that's how they're able to.
and it's sad. It comes from the source
Yeah.
that people normally turn down first, which is the expensive school. Oh, we're not going to look at that school because they're $80,000. But gosh, if they just applied, they could have gotten 60 a year.
Yeah.
So that's what we do, is we want to, there's a lot of deprogramming that we have to do when we meet with clients or we meet with people in our industry. And we're making a dent.
Well,
People are
it's
picking up
40
on it.
years. It's
Yeah.
40 years of people being told, and a lot of people, because even when we were in school, it was so different. You did do the essay, you did do test scores and a lot of that, but with AI now, and we've been telling families for 10 years, social media, really make sure you have a LinkedIn page, really make sure that you use social media if you're not a good test taker. And for a lot of families, that was a really hard thing for them to understand.
Yeah.
And now only in the last year or two are more college admissions people saying, oh yes, let's make sure that you do have a LinkedIn page. And we've been going, thank you.
Yeah, we're
It's-
starting to see
it's
our
more-
counterparts in our
Yeah.
industry that are beginning to adopt bits and pieces of what we've been teaching for decades. Okay, and we're beginning to see a slight shift, but I mean, gosh, there's still a lot of people out there looking at the college problem from the old way, and our mission's to change that.
Yeah.
So
But I think that's what makes this part fun too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how, like, why is it fun? I mean, you're busting a lot of myths. One of them is, you talked about how most of us look at the expensive colleges and universities as a whole as educational institutions. And you said something once along the lines of, no, they're big corporations. They've got a lot of money. Am I saying that right? Isn't that how
Yeah,
you?
they're
they're
big
they're
businesses.
businesses.
Fortune 500 companies. Yeah. Yeah. No.
I actually was talking to someone that got it half right, because I said they're businesses, they're chasing revenue. They said, no, they're chasing rankings.
Yeah.
Okay. Equal higher rankings equal what? Higher revenue. Okay, I get it. So yeah, they're businesses. I mean, they do amazing things. Okay. But I just don't like this idea that they're these altruistic institutions of higher ed without an agenda. I mean, they're there so that they can continue to exist. They build enormous endowments. They invest their endowments as wisely as they can, and they want to live off the interest in perpetuity. And they dip into that endowment sometimes so that they can get the actual students they need to pursue and to move that ranking forward. And here's the beauty of it. If you are an average student with a 3.0 GPA, maybe you've got 1,000 on your SAT, there is an institution out there that is going to look at that student, and that student is going to advance their ranking, and they're going to shower that student with a $35,000 or $45,000 per year grant, just like they would a valedictorian. So that's the other thing, is that this isn't just something that helps the most talented and gifted students. This is a process that helps just about anybody.
It's so counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is. It is.
And it's so fun because you do get to see along the way, because you're educating. You spend a lot of your time educating the families, educating the students about the business of college, but also about, they don't have to have an answer right now. They have to have a general idea of what they want to go into, what they want to do. But let's just make sure that they don't change their majors and have to change schools. Let's find the right fit for them. And then let's start building some competition with the other schools. So let's find 6 to 10 different schools for them that will be a great fit, where we know they're going to get in. I mean, can you imagine applying and already knowing that you're going to get in, and in knowing how much money you're already going to get? I mean, that's what's so fun.
Yeah.
That part's a lot of fun. And then when they start competing with you, competing for you too, that's the great aspect of this. And it's not something that you have to wait a long time. When we used to work in the wealth management business, you really didn't get to see your clients when they got into the retirement year. So you didn't really know if your plan really worked. Here, if your plan works. You get to see firsthand. And as long as the families communicate with you, are engaged with you, then you know it works. It works for them.
Karen,
And
yeah.
they're great about coming back and going, oh my gosh. I mean, they stay in touch with us. It's amazing.
I can only imagine your inbox and mailbox are filled with inspiring stories of families and students you've helped. What are some of your favorite stories of people you've championed?
Oh gosh. Oh, there's so many. One of my favorite stories, actually, we got this letter in the mail. I don't know if you could see it. I keep it close by. And I'll just read the letter to you really quick. Um, Dear Danny, roughly 6 years ago, I walked into your office and told you I wanted to be an intelligence analyst. And you said, let's get you into a college first. I'm now happy to report that both of those goals have finally been accomplished. Sincerest apologies for the tardiness of this letter. I realize I promised you this challenge coin after I graduated from Quantico in November. This is her challenge coin from the FBI. She gave it to me.
Wow.
Obviously, I don't openly advertise what I do, but I figured if you ever needed a prop for a future college admissions pitch, this could be a fun one. From the bottom of my heart to you, Karen, and everyone at Game Theory, thanks for everything.
We got that
Yeah,
this
this
year.
year in May, just arrived in the mail. And I keep it handy. You know,
Yeah.
I remember this young lady. She came in sweats. She was kind of shy, and she wanted to work in intelligence. And like a lot of families, well, how do I do that from Atlanta, from these in-state schools? Well, what if we looked at an expensive school? And a school that came on the list, I think, was Seton Hall. They had a strong international relations program, and she got in that school. She graduated in 3 years instead of 4. And if you follow her progression, it's just, and you look at her now, it's just, it blows my mind sometimes thinking that we had a hand in that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's just one of so many stories that we could talk about all day. One of
Yeah.
our graduates is actually applying to work with us.
Yeah.
So we've been growing our team. So he's saying, hey, I could be proof that I went through this process. I'm proof that it worked.
I know.
And so
Parents too.
and we have a couple of parents that are wanting to work with us too.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it's
We have several parents that have
yeah.
talked to us and said, can we
Yeah.
join the team?
Yeah, so we're
Oh,
currently in the interviewing process, which is really neat.
yeah.
That's a good sign, right? I mean, if
Such
you've
a
got
great
students
sign.
and parents that are wanting to do the job that we've been doing and work with us,
Right.
Yeah.
that means something in my book.
Yeah.
So
It absolutely does. And it's interesting because of where both of you came from. And I mean, before you founded the company, you've
Yeah.
both got interesting backstories. Would you share a little bit about them and your educational journey and how you came to be here today?
I'll let you tell it. It might be a little bit different, our versions of it, but
Well, yeah, we met at Mercer. It was the only school that I applied to, which I was just telling a parent today. I was like, that was the stupidest thing that I could have done. Now being in this business, I told my dad, I said, we probably, because my parents paid full price. And at the time, I think my mom still has to check too. And I think she gave me all of the all of the stuff, they hand down. And
a lot of money back
kept the
then.
check too. And
Yeah.
back then paying full price was huge. And yeah, she gave me the check and I was looking at it. And I think it was $18,000 back then. And that was back in 94, which was a lot of money. So I jokingly
Yeah,
said, well, you do know you probably paid for Danny to go there too.
they did, because I went on an ROTC scholarship.
Oh,
I thought I was going to have to owe another $6,000 because that's the amount the ROTC scholarship didn't cover. But when my parents showed up, they're both blue collar workers working at the post office, and they have 5 other kids. And I think they filed the FAFSA when they got to the college. And I think when Mercer saw my parents' financials, they went ahead and they waived the rest. They paid for the room and board. So I was basically getting a full ride. And
Yeah.
I joke about it, made possible by Karen's parents for paying full
Yeah.
price.
And
Because my parents thought, well, they make too much and there's no way that we could get anything. So we'll just have to pay full price. And
But
I was telling my dad, I said, no, we help families like that. And he thought, gee whiz.
but
He was picked.
I went without a plan. I was going there because my friend was going there, and I was majoring in the same major my friend was majoring in. And after a year, I dropped out.
oh,
And we were dating, and we did what any reasonable, smart dropout does. We decided to get married, and we did. And our parents were thrilled. They were thrilled.
No, yeah.
But we lived off love. We both waited tables, and gosh, how did we make it? I had a bike,
Yeah,
a
I had a
duffel
car.
bag
I
full
had
of
a car.
clothes,
Yeah.
and a job waiting
Yeah.
tables.
And I think it took me 10 years to finish and get a degree.
You're kidding.
No.
Oh, you made the Department of Ed 12-year cutoff.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was that student. I was working full time at the special needs school and then going to school, taking a full course load. And it took, 10 to 12 years for me to finish. I was
Wow.
exhausted. Yeah.
I never managed to
Yeah.
finish. But to pay the bills, I was in the restaurant business. I worked in retail, and I'm thinking someone there probably thought I had a few brain cells. So they kept promoting me, and I kept finding myself in roles where I was mentoring and coaching and hiring. And I had a pretty strong retail career, but it never really fit in terms of what I wanted to do to realize my potential. And the last company I was with was Apple, which in my mind is still at the pinnacle of the retail industry. And I decided to go into wealth management and to work for myself. And then what happened from there? It led me to special needs planning, which led us into college planning. And here I am, one of the leading college planners in the space, and I never finished college. And that was always something challenging to reconcile. And I really wasn't able to reconcile that until, well, the story. This is just such a good story to talk about. Is one of the things that you have to really do to grow as an entrepreneur and as a business owner is you have to come to this realization that the biggest thing standing in your way is you.
Yeah.
And
We were standing in our way.
standing in our own ways. And
Yep.
with the work that we were doing
Yeah.
with your organization, it's just unbelievable how you can take something that I was embarrassed about or maybe even ashamed of, and it's now turned into my superpower.
Yeah.
And it's Karen and I represent two ends of the spectrum about, a family that paid more than they had to, a family that could barely afford it. Even though the money part was solved, we still didn't have a plan, and she took a long time to finish, and I never did. And I think if I did, life definitely would have been easier.
Yeah.
But that's just how it played out, like it does for a lot of families that don't go into this with a plan. And then understanding that with your help really made me understand that I was really meant to do this.
Yeah.
And that we are exactly where we need to be. So that's kind of where we came from.
when you both got to the heart of the fact that why your stories matter is so that no other student and no other families has to go through that same journey, no matter which of the facets we're referring to. Karen, your parents paying way more than they should have, you
Mhm.
taking at least a decade to finish a 4-year institution, Danny,
Yeah.
you never finishing, and your family could have reaped far more benefits for you, and the planning could have taken you all the way through. And
Yes.
those are your superpowers now
Yeah.
Yes.
because they drive you and they're so inspiring. And particularly in this world where, courtesy of social media, people put their best face forward. And, I'm perfect, therefore you should try to be like me, or whatever that implies, right? And you're willing to not only reveal that your story is less than perfect, but use it. It's
Yes.
so motivating. It's so empowering. It creates an experience of, wow, you get it. I need you, which is why I think people have beat a path to your doorway.
Is there a term for this, Cheryl? Because this wave, this feeling comes over me a lot, and I don't want to call it imposter syndrome because it's not reluctance or shame that I'm feeling, but it happens a lot where in my most private moments, or I'll be outside walking my dog, and I'll just be looking around, and I just can't believe where I am. I can't believe that Karen and I run this amazing company, that we are major players in this space. And it's like I have to pinch myself sometimes that we're here. It's not imposter syndrome. I'm not telling myself, oh, I shouldn't be here. How did I get here? It's more, wow, look at this. It's like when you've climbed this mountain and you look back and you see all that ground that you covered, and you're just thinking, whoa, I did all that.
But I think too, we keep thinking about all the other stuff that we've got to do
Yeah,
too.
it's
You know,
it's
there's
still a
so much
whirlwind. It's still a
stuff.
whirlwind.
Yeah.
Gosh, we could probably take another 2 hours talking about the stuff we're working on now. We're in a different place. We've got new challenges. The stress is always there. The excitement's there too. And yeah, we see game theory just really, taking off.
You were talking about those pinch me moments when you're out walking
Yeah.
your dog.
Yes.
And I want to go back to that for a moment.
Yeah.
I'm going to go kind of deep on this. Okay. So and I agree, it's not imposter syndrome. It's something else. When we met,
Mhm.
you were hiding a core piece of who you are. The fact
Yes.
that you didn't graduate college. And given your line of work and your chosen area of expertise, it was there like some big, deep, dark secret waiting to be unmasked by somebody else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Phil told me. Now I laugh as I start to say that because it could sound name dropping, but I
Oh, I
wanted
love
to
him. No, that's
attribute it to him. Okay. So rather than claiming ownership, when I was talking about how I never told anybody about the kidnapping for more than 10 years,
Yeah.
he said, monsters live in the dark. And it was like, whoa, it took on a life of its own. Because I
Yeah.
kept it hidden and in the dark, it ran me because
Yeah.
monsters live in the dark. And when we met and we joked about, am I going to sign an NDA before I get to know the deep, dark secret behind you not finishing college? And I was like, ooh, okay, follow me here. As opposed to not signing an NDA, we're going to lead with this because this is going to galvanize people around you because they will know that you get it. They
Yes.
will know that you know the pain, embarrassment, and now, frankly, the catapult that it has been. But at the time, the pain, embarrassment, the frustration, all of it that you
Yes.
suffered, they know you will never let that happen to them, to their kid.
Yes.
And I think that you leaned into rather than leaning away from it, and the subsequent life that unfolded where people seek you out because of who you are, not in spite of it.
Yes.
I If I were to place a wager, I think it has something to do with you're now completely free to be, and people love you for it. And business has exploded as a result, and holy crap, I get to live this life kind of sounds like what's happening. What do you think? I don't know.
That's exactly
Yeah.
it, because I
Yeah.
remember after that conversation and after we started really putting all of that out there, instead of it being this weight, all of a sudden it felt like freedom. It just felt
And
like this huge weight had been lifted off, and we just started saying it. And instead it was, oh, we don't have to worry about a competitor saying it or a family saying it. Or if a family said it, we could say, yeah, guess what? It's out there. There you go.
yeah.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't a big deal because we knew how to handle it, and it was so freeing. That's the way I remember it
Yeah.
being.
It certainly allowed me to dedicate a lot more bandwidth to really innovating and advancing
Yeah.
the things that we were doing.
I
And
remember other people being afraid for us, going, are you
yeah.
sure? Are you
Yeah.
sure you want to, other people, outside
Yeah.
people, in people close to us, are you sure you want to let people know? And we were like, yeah, we're going to let the
Yeah.
whole world know.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, for them going, whoa, are you sure you should do that? And then when we did, and there wasn't any issues, it was, it was liberating.
Yeah. It really shifted our focus that, hey, it's not about us. It's
Mhm.
about what these families are doing with our help and what we've accomplished here. Whether I have a degree or not, we're getting the job done. And yeah, that was a very, very big takeaway.
How can people learn more about you and get in contact with you?
If you're on TikTok,
Yeah.
watch our TikToks. We do our best to put as much of our authentic selves as we can on the content that we create. We also have a fantastic YouTube channel, and
Yeah, just check out Game Theory College.
yeah,
I'll make
Or-
sure all
Um,
the links are in the liner notes of the episode. What a gift that you've provided for our listeners today. Thank you for being here.
thanks for having
Hey,
us.
thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure
Thank you
catching up
so
with you.
much.
Likewise. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Karen and Danny Umali just flipped the script about everything we thought we knew about college admissions and funding. One huge takeaway: the system isn't necessarily broken, it's just designed to work for colleges, not for families. But the good news: with the right strategy, you can make the system work in your favor. I'm Cheryl Hunter. As always, keep magnifying your message, sharing your passion with the world. It matters more than you could ever know. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with everyone that you feel it would benefit. Thank you in advance. And when you're ready to share your story and your work with the world, I can help. Visit CherylHunter.com to learn how. I am Cheryl Hunter, and until next time, know that your message has the power to change the world.